Lisa Bilyeu is a woman of impact who helped grow Quest Nutrition to #2 on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. She went from growing up in a very traditional Greek household where she was expected to become a stay-at-home wife to impacting over 300 million people around the globe through her impact theory shows. And today we're going to look at my take on her top 10 rules of success. Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Lisa Bilyeu, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1, address how you feel.
Tell me about this thing that was hardest to start. In all the things you've started, whether it was relationships, whether it was Quest, whether it was Impact through Women of Impact now, like what was the toughest thing for you personally to start and why?
I don't know about the starting, but the hardest thing I had to do was be a housewife. So, and I don't say that, like, I think if you choose to be a housewife, it can be the most beautiful thing in your life, but I didn't choose to be. And so when we started on our entrepreneurial journey, it was all like, we want to make movies. Let's just make enough money to make our own films. Earning money shouldn't be too difficult. And so we went into that thinking, okay, I'm just going to be a housewife for a year. And our plan was Tom was going to go, basically go after the money. And we looked at all the successful people in the world and we looked at Steve Jobs and we're like, how does he live his life? And we saw that he doesn't take time to choose his color shirt because we only have a certain amount of decisions we can make in 1 year, in a day. So Tom was like, okay, well, if I took off the decisions off my plate from the house, then I can really concentrate on the money. So we made an agreement that for a year, I would be the stay-at-home wife and I would do everything from him. From the moment he woke up, his clothes would be laid out for him. From going to the gym and coming back, his work clothes were laid out for him. His lunch was made. Like every single thing outside of business, I handled. And so I thought, okay, as a partnership, we're going in this together. We've agreed what we're doing, how we're going to do it. We've given ourselves 12 months. 12 months came, 2 years came, 3 years came, 4 years came before we knew it was an 8-year journey. And that was the hardest thing because I hadn't planned on it. It wasn't what I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted to do. But I had almost tricked myself enough that every day I was doing something that was meaningful, that I wasn't addressing how I actually felt, right? Like I kept telling myself, you're doing this for this purpose. You're doing it for your husband. You're doing it for your mission. You're doing it because you guys agreed that you're going to do it. And at no point did I stop and go, but I don't enjoy it anymore. And that was the hardest thing because I would fill my days with mundane things, but just enough to get pleasure out of them. So I would clean and I would find pleasure in cleaning so I could get through the day. And that became an 8-year journey where looking back now, I was at my most miserable because I didn't address how I felt. And now in business and everything I do, I reassess. But I didn't have a growth mindset back then. So now I'm just like, am I enjoying what I'm doing? What is my life's purpose? And am I doing that every single day? And I didn't do that back then.
Rule number 2, find your why.
Now, guys, I don't know about you, but when you're trying to do the hard things, you have to look inwards and find a good why. Because if your why isn't strong enough, what's going to happen? When you hit a brick wall, when you fall on your face, when you're getting that call at 2 o'clock in the morning because you have to go and fix a problem with your business, you have to come back to that why. And so for me, my why started to evolve. I loved learning. And I went from feeling like I was somebody that was just waiting, that I was stagnant, to then all of a sudden, I could learn things, I could grow, I could build things. And it started to really stir something exciting inside me. And so because of that, I was able to push through things. And because of that, I was able to take myself from the hairnet to my very first office desk, to my very first team, to my very first shipping department, to 10,000 square feet, to 100,000 square feet, to an Inc. 500 entrepreneur.
Rule number 3, have confidence.
You couldn't have possibly convinced me that when I was 14 years old, I'd eventually find confidence. You couldn't have convinced me that I'd actually like myself, that one day I'd actually have self-esteem, that one day I'd be hosting my own show with pink hair and a black and red silky jacket. Now, if I knew this, would I have done anything differently? Would I have stopped wearing baggy clothes and embraced my embarrassingly small chest size? Would I have stopped trying to be understated with my hair and embrace my quirky side? Would I have started to wear makeup and finally embrace my female sexuality? Now, guys, I really think about this because the truth is, yes, it held me back. The things I could have done differently, if I could have had confidence, would have been astronomical.
Rule number 4, believe that you can do it.
For me, I actually stumbled into finding my passion. So he'd come home, he was very miserable at work. We were just chasing money for the longest time, you know his story. And one day I just looked at him and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need my husband back. I've lost every ounce of, because he was so driven by money at the time, his personality had completely, gone. He was no longer excited about anything. He came home and didn't want to talk about work. And I said, I don't care about money. I just want my husband. And if that means that we have to give up everything we've just spent the last 8 years trying to build, then so be it. But I'm not willing to let my husband go over money or a career. So he turned around, he's like, I hear you. So he went in to quit. And at this point, he had gained about $2 million in shares equity in the company. But we agreed that if he doesn't cross the finish line, he doesn't deserve the money. And we went into that knowing that. And so he went in and quit and metaphorically passed over the $2 million back to his business partners. And that was kind of the first step in then us moving towards Quest. So he turned around and he's like, all right, babe, we're going to try this new business. We're going to do something that we both, all of us love. And so I just need your help. I was like, okay, of course. I'm a good wife, right? I'll help you. What do you need? He's like, I just need you to help us make these protein bars. So it's not a big deal. It's like get a rolling pin and a knife, measure out some ingredients and then ship them from our living room floor because they were trying to then sell the company they were going to distance themselves from. So I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. I'm a good wife. I will absolutely help. So I'm shipping these bars from the living room floor. In that moment, it was, I want to be a good wife. I want to support him like he's been supporting me. And our house was on the line. So that was the next thing. He came home and he's like, all right, we all hate the company we're doing. My business partners, we all agree we're going to transition. We're going to do this protein bar company. But if we do, our house is on the line. And if it fails, we lose the house. And so the famous lines that now he talks about is, I say, babe, I bet on you. Like, I don't care about a house. I believe in you. And so I'm in. Mm-hmm. But of course, the reality is I'm still, can I swear on this show?
Go for it.
All right, so I'm still scared that we're going to lose the house. I don't want to lose my house. So I'm shipping bars off the living room floor. I'm mixing ingredients, in our kitchen. We're renting the kitchen, rental kitchen by an hour. And so I'm thinking it's in service of my husband and in service of me not losing my house. And in doing that, I started to learn things. So because we were growing so fast, we grew at 57,000%.
Every time I hear that, I don't think anyone can understand. Because that was the second fastest growing company at the time?
So
something like that.
Yeah, and we went from 0 to $1 billion in 5 years. So
that's insane.
It's
like,
pretty
I don't think
quick.
anyone can even fathom what that means from a work point of view. And just, I mean, I've spoken to Tom so many times about it and I've heard him say it, but yeah, anyway, I want to take a moment to just be like, that is amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Like everyone listening.
But when you're in the weeds, right, we weren't necessarily as focused, maybe other people were, but I wasn't so focused on the growth as opposed to just don't drown.
Right.
It's like, don't sink, keep paddling, no matter what happens, stay afloat. Like, I've got to be strong for my husband. I got to be strong for this business. I don't want to lose my house. And so every obstacle I faced, I didn't feel at the time like I had a choice. It was, you better figure it out. Like, you can't let your husband down. You don't want to lose your house. And so I never gave myself the luxury of being like, but what if this doesn't work? Right. What if I fail? What if I can't do this? I didn't give myself that luxury. And so when I went from shipping bars from my living room floor to then we got our first office and then we got our first warehouse, everyone was like, oh, Lisa, you know how to do it, so keep doing it. So I was just trying to stay alive. I'm Googling literally on YouTube, like, how do you do freight shipping? Where do I buy a pallet from? What the hell is a pallet, right? And so So I had no clue. I just kept learning, kept going on Google, kept researching. And me, myself, just from shipping, I went from shipping from my living room floor to we had $80 million in inventory. I had 40 employees underneath me and a 10,000 square feet in 2 years. And again, I just kept having to teach myself how to do it because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to let people down. And that was the biggest thing that I was like, wow, I can do it. Oh my God, Lisa, you can actually learn this stuff. Here I was just trying not to fail and not to look like a fool, to my husband and his business partners. But then I started to value the fact that I could learn, I could grow. If I failed, I could pick myself up. If I didn't know something, I could teach myself. And that became like a drug to me. Yeah. And my purpose changed. And that was when I realized I really like this. I really want to do more of this. And now I don't want to be a housewife. And so that was the conversation Tom and I had to sit down and really have. Where I was like, once upon a time, I'd said, I'm going to be, a housewife. I'm going to have kids. I wanted a traditional Greek family. Even though we had these dreams, I did want children. And now everything had changed. I didn't know if I wanted children anymore. I didn't want to stay at home and put clothes out for my husband. I didn't want to cook for him anymore. And so we had to really sit down and look at that and talk about that very openly.
Also, if you want to have unstoppable confidence and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
There's a gap between who people are and what they tell you they want to accomplish.
If you're crappy, say you're crappy. If you're amazing, say you're amazing. Tell the truth.
When I was bartending, I was fully bartending. Like I wasn't talking to myself about, oh my God, I should be dancing right now, or I should be working on my coaching practice.
Rule number 5, take ownership.
I had to take ownership. I had to start doing a diary, going back to like, what can people do at home is a big thing, which I know may be controversial. I came to the conclusion that everything is my fault. So with me being this sick as I am, yes, the doctors gave me antibiotics. They didn't force feed me. I took them myself. I swallowed them myself. Secondly, when the doctor said, I shouldn't really be prescribing you this many antibiotics, but here you go. Did I ever ask why? Did I ever go on the internet and say, what does long-term antibiotics do to you? No, never. So did the doctor make me have a restricted diet, right? So all these things are in my...
How did that help you? For the people at home who are screaming at their screens right now.
It allowed me to recognize that if I can do this to myself, I can also heal myself. And taking full ownership of that instead of saying, I can't, I don't know, why me, this isn't working, right? I can do that. Or I can say, this is your fault, you got yourself into it, but the great news is you can get yourself out of it. And having that type of ownership started going, what does that look like? What does full ownership of this condition mean? It means that I have to write down every single thing that I eat. It means that I have to write down every bowel movement that I have. I have to even write down what I do when I eat. Where did I eat? Did I eat at home while in a meeting? Did I eat at home by the swimming pool? And starting to look at patterns. Because in your mind, it's like, there's no pattern. And then I would look after 2 weeks and I'd be like, that's really funny. The 3 times I ate during a shoot, which is a pattern I noticed, every time an Impact Theory shoot was on, I always got problems, but I would eat the same thing. Now, until I wrote it down and started to notice those patterns, I wasn't able to address it. So ownership to me meant that I could take control. It meant that I could start to fix things and then start to pride myself on being, right, we talk about this all the time, pride myself on being the person that is going to keep going to find the right answer. And that is why how I can take 4 years that we've been doing this and now look at it and say, this can possibly be the best thing that's ever happened to me because it has empowered me to change the way that I think. We built this set, this whole show specifically to basically address my health. And when I start reading comments about people seeing interviews that you've done, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. This really hit home. Now I can start to help myself. It's like there's a great knock-on effect to me taking ownership of that. And then to also just acknowledge the difference that made in our relationship. Because I think for you seeing that I was taking ownership helped like you approach it. Like, okay, well, it's not just a battle you're dealing with on your own. She's actually like becoming a part of it. And we realized together how much mindset plays into this. And initially I thought it was such BS. When the first call we ever had with one of our doctors, more the holistic side of things, and I've got my diary and I'm all excited because I'm like, I'm the best customer ever. I've got everything written down. They want to know what I ate 3 weeks ago. For lunch, I can tell them exactly what I ate. And I had the book ready, and they on the phone, and they're like, so what do you do when you eat? And I was like, well, you mean what I eat, right? And they're like, no, what do you do when you eat? He's like, I actually don't care what you eat right now. It's not even interesting to me. I need to know what you do when you eat. And that was the first time I realized how much my lifestyle, how much the stress of the business, how long I work, not sleeping much, all of that, how much it actually affects my eating. And I never understood it. I thought that was all BS, all woo-woo. The mind, what's the mind got to do with the gut? And it wasn't until I became open to any suggestion, no matter how much I didn't believe in it. The second I was open to it and said, this could be it, the placebo effect, even if I'm wrong, but this could be it. I'll try anything now. Acupuncture, yep, let's do it. You want me to go on a vegan diet? Cool, I got this. You want me to go to all, artificial food? Sure. Whatever it is that could potentially help me, I go in thinking this is the answer.
Rule number 6, visualize.
I love the naivety of the beginner, right? So it's like every time I start something, I'm like, oh, so when we're huge, not realizing how difficult something may actually be to do. But yeah, I've always had that because I think it's so important to focus on your goal and getting there, not just like a mythical, I will be there one day. I actually think, okay, when I'm standing on the stage, winning my Academy Award, I need a photo showing me with a camera in my hand. And it's that little mentality that pushes me when times are hard, right? When I am on set, like when we started Impact Theory, we just come from, Quest Nutrition, $1 billion company, but we treated Impact Theory like a startup. And so I was camera operating. I was figuring out what live switching equipment I needed. And in those moments, I think about the future. And because there's certain things that I just don't enjoy doing, right? And so to get me through those moments, I have to visualize where I'm going to be and where I'm going and actually believe it. Not just say it, but actually believe it. And so taking photos, I say all the time, like, oh, this will be a great before and after photo. Because when you're in those moments of just, this sucks and why am I doing this? I just remind myself, Lisa, this is going to be a great story to tell.
Rule number 7, make yourself uncomfortable.
Even as an adult growing up, or as adults as us, we're still fearful of walking into a place and not being accepted.
Yeah.
Right? And so
it's like I'm 15 or 10
100%.
all over again. It's
yeah.
oh God.
And I realized that it was holding me back because I was realizing that I wasn't socializing as an adult because I was always fearful that I was going to get judged. And for me, the only way I could overcome that is push myself and lean into it and make myself so uncomfortable that I have to get over it. And so holding dinners, everyone thinks that I'm super social and that I have this massive group of female friends. I really don't. I ended up starting the show, meeting incredible women, and just started inviting people. And I kind of said to myself, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, the worst that can happen is it ends up being a disaster. Either no one turns up or these women make fun of me, right? Which is very potential, or I get judged. And then that's the worst that can happen. And so I just told myself, if that can happen and I can pick myself up again and get over it, why not try it?
Rule number 8, change your perspective.
Unexamined life is not worth living. If we don't examine what we do and why we do it, what's going to drive us? What's going to fuel us? And so I just want to tell you a quick little story. I was in line at a buffet, and this woman behind me, we start chatting, and she asks me what I do. So I tell her about Quest Nutrition. And then I ask her, what do you do? And she stops and she looks at me, and she kind of whispers, I'm just a mother. I don't know about you guys, but who has ever, in fact, put your hand up if you've ever used the word just when you're referring to yourself, because I know I have. Okay, we do it to protect ourselves. We do it to almost minimize what we do, just in case people think it's kind of crap. And so I realized, so when she said just, I didn't actually call her on it, I just let it go, but it did sting a little. And so I started to ask her more and more questions about herself. And the more I realized she actually loved what she did. She wanted to be the stay-at-home mother. She wanted to homeschool her 3 children. It brought her joy and happiness to do it. So why did she use the word just? Well, as I talked to her more, I realized the reason why she used the word just is because she thought I had the perspective of judgment on her. But the truth is that it doesn't matter what we choose. What really matters is, does it set you alight? Does it make you feel like you are on fire? And with her, it did. And so the difference was when I was the stay-at-home wife, it didn't make me feel like that. And I didn't realize that I had the choice to change it. But here she was. She loved what she did. And so in order for her to change the perspective of what she had with me, she then was able to enjoy and value what she did herself. And so that's why we need to examine what we do and how we feel about it and why we do it. And so I was standing there, the Inc. 500, and I still didn't feel complete. And so I examined my life. And I remembered that childhood dream that I had of being in filmmaking. And I remembered that yearn I had to be in that business, that I had let the flame I'd let dissipate. But I'd reminded myself that, hang on, Lisa, you're the person that just went from being the stay-at-home wife to changing her perspective to be able to then build the company to be an Inc. 500. So why was I still limited in my mindset? So I reminded myself of what I was able to achieve, that I could change my perspective at any choice, at any time, that our perspective is a choice. And that's when I then took the next leap and I built my very first cooking show with Cassie Ho. I then went on to build the state-of-the-art set for Inside Quest. I then was co-founder with my husband of Impact Theory Media Studios. I'm now host and founder of Women of Impact. And all of these shows, accumulatively over these last few years, have surpassed 300 million views. And that's why I can say I finally chose my happiness. So my message to you guys today is you have to recognize that the belief and perspective that you have right now may not be a choice, may not be something that you've chosen. It may be something that was given to you from birth. It may be something that was given to you over experiences of your life. But now you have to look at and say, what do you actually want in life? What is that thing that is going to set you alight? Because it is a choice, guys. It is a choice. So, what do you want your perspective to be? Ask yourself that question. It doesn't matter who you are right now. What perspective do you want to have? And who do you want to become? Because let me tell you, no one gets to tell you guys who you should become and what you should do. Only you get to decide that. Only you get to tell yourself what you are going to become. Because no one else does.
Rule number 9, always be a student.
For years, Tom and I had given up everything, and in 2015, it was finally paying off. Quest had just become $1 billion company, we just bought the house of our dreams, and to celebrate, we popped a bottle of bubbly by our waterfall, a scene I had only dreamt about. And then, in an instant, everything changed. Within 10 minutes, my stomach started to cramp. Within 30 minutes, I found it hard to breathe from the pain. Within an hour, I couldn't even stand up. And for almost a year after that, I could barely eat anything. So due to malnutrition, my hair started to fall out. My nails became brittle. I was tired all day, every day, and the stomach cramping never ceased. Now, can I be honest? That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was how I actually felt about myself. Yep, I'm gonna say it. The emotional pain was way harder to bear than even the physical pain. I lost my confidence. I didn't feel sexy for my husband. I wasn't fun to be around. I was the cliche that money doesn't buy happiness. And that's when my entire belief system backhand slapped me in the face. And finally, I realized that no amount of success in business, relationships, or life will ever bring us happiness if we are not healthy enough to actually enjoy it. Now, that fateful day was almost 4 years ago, and I'm still battling my health. I've sought countless doctors, I've had every test unimaginable, I've changed my lifestyle, changed my diet, and one day at a time, I'm making incremental improvements. But it's ever evolving. We know more today than yesterday, and we will know more tomorrow than today. There will be new technologies tomorrow that will clarify our theories of today. We are all constantly discovering new ideas. So I am obsessed with talking about it. I'm obsessed with exploring new thinking. We must always, guys, be the student.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is make a choice.
Walk me through, what is it like as you're going through this? Like, do you remember certain milestones where you just wanted to throw your hands up and be like, I don't know what to do from here?
Yes. Not specifically what happened that made me throw my hands up, but it was every time we went to a doctor, they said, oh, I know what it is, it's this, and take this and you'll be fine. And I remember thinking at the time, which again, like the myth is like, the more money you pay, the better the doctor. And so every time it was a disappointment and a frustration. And eventually it got to the point, I remember thinking, nothing is working. I've gone to all these doctors, we've paid all this money, nothing's working. And you kept going on about keto. And that's when I was like, what's the harm? Like at this point, I can't, like if I'm gonna be in more pain because I've had one meal, what's the difference? I'm in pain every day anyway, my hair's falling out, my nails are brittle. And so that's when I then started the ketogenic diet. But there were a lot of times I wanted to throw my hands up, but I just kept reminding myself, all right, Lisa, you've got a choice. Throw your hands up and slowly start dying, or fight and slowly start living.
Now I've got a special bonus script from Lisa on how to work through shame that I really think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what is one important choice that you need to make right now? Let me know what it is and the answer down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video and you commit to taking action, we don't just watch videos here, Believe Nation, we do something about it. If that's you and you're gonna do something, give me a hashtag Believe in the comments below, because I wanna celebrate you.
The one thing that's always been very prominent with me is being aware of other people around you. So when I'm sick, I was like, you are affected by it. And to just think that it's happening to me because I'm feeling the pain, I think is very unfair and rather dismissive of the partnership that we have. If I'm sick, it affects both of us. I'm not gonna be that person that's like, woe is me, I'm gonna stay in bed and you have to serve me. This is affecting both of us. And I felt somewhat guilty that I was bringing that as part of our day-to-day lives. And then on top of that, especially as Quest was developing, I'm like, here we are, we own one of the largest nutrition companies in the world, and I'm sick, I can barely eat our product. And I didn't want that, to have a reflection of me, but then also because you were the president of the company, I didn't want that to then have an influence on how other people saw you or saw the company. And so there was an element of shame to it that I don't think people really talk about. And I was just shameful that this is happening to me. And so that's probably part of why I didn't change the way I ate and just suffered in silence, because I didn't want people to be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, oh, what's wrong? Oh, you can't even eat your own product? So I just thought better to just not say anything and basically suffer in silence, not realizing I was doing worse and worse to my body. If I had realized that, like, all right, Lisa, now's the time, if you just stop, then you can recover quicker, of course I would. Everything's in hindsight, but I didn't. So I would just kept going. I just thought, well, this is just me. Because that was the belief I had. This is just me, this is just my body, there's nothing I can do about it. So by golly, I'm gonna have as much wonderful moments with my husband as I can, because there's nothing I can do about it, which is ridiculous now, understanding what we've kind of discovered. But that was definitely why I hid it, and the shame of it. I've never used that word before, actually, when it's come to this, but that's absolutely the truth.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Lisa's husband, Tom Bilyeu, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
So they would take people and they would submerge their arm in a bucket of ice, and they would just hold it there as long as you can. Now, at first it's just cold, but after a while it really starts to hurt.